Slight recap, what did we discuss last week?
Deuteronomy 21.
Very good. Nice blanketing there. The in-depth discussion of verse by verse, interpretation, which gets rush, and going into the remnants which link to the source. Alright, come recap. What did we discuss? Atonement for unknown murders, right? What else?
Taking a wife from shaving their head and nails and...
Yes, okay, so we started having compassion for ladies. Okay, even though they were not part of your people, when you brought them in, you were giving them a time of mourning, and if you still liked them thereafter, you were permitted to marry them, right?
Yes.
What else?
Rebellious children.
Rebellious children, right, which led us to a parable.
Prodigal son.
Was it only the parable of the prodigal son? No. It was the parables of Luke.
Three.
Yes.
Also about the birthrights and stuff.
Something was
You remember things you weren't even here for. That's amazing.
something lost, something
Teaching the fruits of your previous stolen mistake, like not just destroying them, just because it was not in line with what the Father said.
Right,
To
okay.
show love.
To show love, to show compassion, okay? Alright, so remember, we're still in the same parasha, right? So because we're in the same portion, we still need to apply the same sort of line of thinking, okay? So if he's very much in the case of this is how you will behave, this is what is important, this is what is kadosh, what is holy, this is how you will treat each other, okay? This portion, these next couple of chapters are going to be a little bit more sporting. They're going to a little bit more, let's just say there's some rougher things in here that we're obviously going to have to hash out a little bit. But just remember, all of these mitzvot are connected in the way that they want to show you God's character, right? This is where we start to see the tekimik to tal. It's nice to talk about God's love and God's grace, and we blanket statements a lot. But when he shows you that this is how you walk it out, these are the mitzvot. This is the type of stuff where we get to this. You know, you get to the 613. It's literally going to be 2 verses or 1 verse with 1 instruction, and that's what you need to obey. All right. So I want you to start think of why would a loving father say ... Are you with me? All right. Because people come up here and they start again and they will look at some of the stuff and they go, yeah, you see, that God of that Old Testament, no thanks. Okay? He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He doesn't change. So if he was loving then, he's loving now. And if he was loving all the time before, we need to be able to check to see what's going on. Okay. 22 verse 1. You are not to watch your brother's ox or sheep straying and behave as if you hadn't seen it. You must bring it back to your brother. If your brother is not close by, or you don't know who the owner is, you are to bring it home to your house, and it will remain with you until your brother asks for it. Then you are to give it back to him. You are to do the same with his donkey, his coat, or anything else of your brother that he loses. If you find anything he lost, you must not ignore it. Principle? Point? Honesty, not just about honesty. Stole my sheep.
I mean, it would cost you something. You've got to take that animal, you've got to feed it, you've got to take care of it. This is showing the love your brother as you love yourself.
Right. Remember, we're gonna see this sort of theme come up the entire time. Okay? Remember when they asked Yeshua, he said, what's the greatest commandment? The greatest commandment is what? Right. Shema Israel. Hear in this know Israel, the Lord is God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And if he carries on, and you will observe my mitzvot, and you'll teach them to your children, and you'll write them with doorposts in your houses, and you'll make for yourself tzitzit, etc., etc. And then I will give you your rains, your wine, your oil, your grain, everything will fall in line. If you keep my instructions, I will give you blessing. But the greatest commandment is always hear and listen. Hear and obey. Okay, Shema, right? So when you look at the baseline, and again in that Shema, while we're there very quickly, you have a couple of different components. First part is an instruction. Hear and listen, O Israel. The Lord is God. Statement. So it's an invitation to open up your ears. Then comes the statement. And then comes a description. He is Echad. Now what's the difference between one and one?
Unity. One singular, one together.
Alright, now give me a breakdown in Hebrew.
Amen.
Hey man, you've got to go deep.
You know.
Who knows the difference? Echad, which is?
One. Singular.
Otherwise.
Echad is plural, plural together.
Plural.
Echad is like becoming one.
Yes.
It means one.
Achad. Okay? It's an A sound. Okay? But when you get to the oneness of, it is Echad. Okay? You will get, even in, we can call it the Hebrew roots movement, where you will get people that completely move away from the divinity of Christ, because it says in Torah, there is only one God. But it says in John. Okay?
John 10:50, the Father and I are one.
Just, Echad, but you're also looking at right in the beginning. The Word was God, right? The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So we take away the divinity because we don't understand Echad, because we only understand Achad. Okay? Just pointing out something that you're probably going to encounter one point.
I mean, even in Genesis, it says, let us make man in our image.
Yes, let us make man in our image, and that could mean one or two various different
Well, they
things.
say angels, but angels don't make.
Yeah, right? You could say the angelic host, let's make man, or God's talking about them, but Regan brought up a good thing, no angel can create.
But angels were made in the image of God.
They were also made by God, so they are created, okay, so therefore they cannot create again. What else?
I'm saying that they were made in the image of God.
Man was made in the image. What else? How do you make, God says, make you in our image? What do we have that the rest of creation doesn't?
Those three, mind, body, soul.
Alright, we made up in three parts. Okay? Body, soul, and spirit. What else? Free will. You have that thing where you can actually make a choice for yourself. And God will always give you an invitation to obey. And He will tell you this is what will happen when you obey. But if you choose not to walk with me, let me tell you what this is going to do. Okay, so we have an inkling that that could be it as well. And to sort of summarize, in Torah we have something along the lines of 2,500 times the word for God that is used is the term Elohim. Alright? And we know in Hebrew, you have to go check. In the term for Hebrew, anything with an im sound is plural. Alright? So in our translation where it says, and God created, it should, if you were literally translating, it should say gods. But because we understand God is Echad, we know that there is only one creator. Am I confusing anybody? Are you with me? That is, it's a little bit of a conundrum. Because as you get, no. In Job it's Elohim, but in Torah it's Elohim. Check the sources. Okay? When you go in Elohim, you look at this term and you go, but hang on a second, how can God be one and He's masculine, gender, plural? That'll always take it back to that verse that says, let us make man in our image. If Yeshua, who was the Word, was there from the beginning, and the Holy Spirit was there from the very beginning, and we know that Yeshua and the Father are one, and the Ruach is also part of God. We understand this word. I'm going to stay away from the term Trinity. I think Trinity is a really bad term, because it denotes like a sort of Parthenon of idea is you have three different deities and then they all sort of have a meeting and then they decide what's going on. I like the term triune. It works better for me because they're all part of one being. Okay, and again we're trying to describe God using terms, which is very difficult. But one of the best ways that Abba showed me that this is how sort of things overlap is that a person speaks a word. That word carries the authority from the person and it is run on the breath. You cannot issue a word out of your mouth without breathing. Try it sometime. Alright? It was a really strange way in which he showed me this. I met a guy who had a throat operation and you know they make that little hole so that they can breathe. Alright? And then he had to learn, he just had it done. He was a couple of weeks in. So he's still learning how to talk. So what they do is like, you know, little boys do that, right? And then you burp. And then when they burp, he speaks. Because then the words actually come out. So before he could say anything, he'd be, and then as the air would flow from his mouth, then he would be able to get the word out. Otherwise, he would just sound. Okay? So the word of God, which is Yeshua, comes on the very breath of God, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, emulates from the Father who speaks it. The word cannot do anything without the authority from where it is spoken, and the Holy Spirit cannot do anything without the authority from whence it is spoken, and the Word and the Holy Spirit work together. Yes, ma'am.
I like your explanation, but we've got to remember that we three-dimensional, we live in a three-dimensional world, and when it comes to the Father and that type of stuff, they're not in the three-dimensional world.
Absolutely.
But Yeshua did try and explain it to us as well. But what I'm just thought of now is when the people said to Yeshua, show us the Father. He said, but how do you ask me to show you the Father? I've been with you all this time. So what is that?
He's talking about his function. You see, that's the thing. Like I said to you before, we're trying to describe an infinite God using little definitions that try to give us a little bit of a better understanding of how it works. Okay? But, you know, people struggle with this idea that Yeshua has now got to receive all authority in all things, and yet the Father is still in control. And where does this funny Holy Spirit person thing float around, and what does he do?
Can't you sort of look at it like the three forms of matter? Like, you know, a gas. Water can be a gas, it can be a solid, and it can be a liquid.
Yes.
But it's all water.
Yes, but all at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. When it's all functioning all at the same time. See, we cannot directly sort of identify and put God in the box. It's impossible to do so. Alright? What I'm trying to just show you is that there is this yes, my words are getting stuck in coffee. Okay? About God, that it is hidden in his very function, in the very words that were coined that he gave Moses. He said, I am Elohim. Okay? And when you look at the creation and things like that, he uses that term a lot. Okay, surely that is not his only name, we know this. There are many other different descriptions. And do me a favor, when you see the word and when you go and try and look into the Hebrew, which I'm hoping you're going to do, don't look at it as an identification card where you can stick it on him and you can label it. Don't get stuck there. With God, it's always been about function. Right? This is who I am to you. This is what I am to you. So I'm going to walk with you as El Shaddai. But when he's talking about himself in a completely different guise, he says, I am Elohim. And then don't worry, Adonai Tsevaot is with you. It's like, pick a name already. Which one are you? I'm Adonai. I'm Ha'elyon. I'm the Yud-Heh-Vav. And it's not that he has different personalities. It's not that he does not function. We know that he's talking about the same God. You're not talking about a pantheon of gods. Now, because there are different names. He's talking about himself, but he's always teaching you how he relates to you in your situation. It is a function to you. Okay? This is who I am to you right now. And this is what you need to understand from me. You know, El Shaddai roughly translated is I am your every need. Very roughly, very quickly. But when you go into it, you only understand El Shaddai as El Shaddai is when you're in need. And he comes through. And you realize you can say the name with a fullness of heart. And he says, you will know me? What does that term to know me mean? Experience. An intimate experience. So I have been there. He's held me. He's carried me. He's been in that situation, and I know He is El Shaddai because of what He took me through and what He brought me through. And when you're being attacked, and you're going through a rough time, you don't call out to El Shaddai. You say, Adonai Tzebaot, where's the angels? I need some help. And sometimes when you just want to praise Him and you're blown away by what He does, and you know He's on the throne, and you're just like, Adonai, and you are Lord Most High. I never even saw this coming. I didn't even know what was going on, but you knew it and you sorted it, and you've already, you've blown my little mind about what you've done here. He gives you those names to help you understand Him. And in all of these beautiful terms of relationship and function, and then it all boils down to what Yeshua says. And He says, now because you are born of me, right? Born of God, you are now become sons of God. And you can cry out, Daddy. Not Avinu, my father. Dad. It's a little bit more, you are little children, I am your father scenario. And that function of coming into Daddy's house and sitting there on Daddy's lap and just having a little talk with Daddy. And we look at these titles and we know it identifies who He is and His function, but it always comes back down to the heart. To take you, to show you who I am, Lord of all creation, Lord of everything. Look how I've done everything, and this is how I've brought you, and this is how I've brought, to bring you into the truth. Come sit on my lap. All I want is your heart, all I want is relationship. I'm your father from the beginning. Making sense? A whole bunch of words just to get you into something that we weren't discussing at all. Isn't it awesome? Alright? So again, looking after the Father. Oh yeah, we're coming back to Shema. He said the greatest commandment, and then He makes a kesher. What is a kesher? It's a link, right? Like a remez links or hints, alluding to something. But He will say, the interpretation to this line is this. Okay? Remember, Yeshua comes and He challenges their interpretation a lot of the times. You say, or you've heard it's written, but then you do this and this and this. I say to you, right, Matthew 5, you know where I am right now. Yes, right? Okay? You've heard it said, do not commit adultery. But I say unto you, if you look at a person with lust, you have already done it. So He takes him and He's not nullifying the instruction. He says, this goes deeper. He says, I'm checking your heart, I'm checking your eyes, I'm checking your mind, and as I'm linking those two together. But yeah, he takes scripture and he says, all right, you want to know the correct interpretation, or you want to know how to interpret Shema Israel, what does that mean to me? So everything links together with, you said it, love your neighbor. Torah hangs on the principle of love your neighbor as you love yourself. Okay? So first principle, very quickly. Do not tell me you love God if you ignore your brother. And if you cannot take a look after his property, you don't love him. Because that very ox, that very donkey, that very cloak might be the only one he has. You're not talking about, oh, you left your jacket, we'll get it to you next week. These people don't have cupboards full of clothes. He might only have one donkey. Let's pretend like the car had a mind of its own and you saw someone's car ride past. And you know that that's this person's transport to get to work. I have to go catch your car quickly and put it in until you realize it's gone. Or how are you going to, your ox disappears and he gets up in the morning and he goes, where's my ox? But what happens if it's that time when they need to start planting? And he spends weeks looking for it. Or if it gets destroyed because you thought, oh no, it went down there. You do not take care of it. How is your brother going to plant? Who's going to feed him? Are you going to? Okay? on love. Do not ignore it. Verse 4, if you see your brother's donkey or ox collapsed in a road, you may not behave as if you haven't seen it. You must help it get on its feet again. To love your brother means to go and sort out his animals for him. A woman is not to wear a man's clothing. I love it. Let's talk about farm animals and then we go into cross-dressing quickly. This you will start to see a lot. God will be talking about one thing and then he'll go, oh, by the way, don't do this. I'm trying to find the link, but this is not helping me. Remember, you're looking at a parasha, you're looking at a theme, right? And he's going bang, 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 bang. And then the reason why I'm going to bring this up is because you get into discussions with people that will tell you that, okay, so you believe in Yeshua, right? Yeshua did not come to annul the law because we know that. He says that in Matthew 5. But he came to take away ritual or holiness law. Right? So what happens is, very clever people, and I say that with love and respect because some of these guys that I've heard quote this know more than what I do by a long shot. And I look at them in awe and I'm just like, oh, how do they not see it? How do they not see it? They know so much about you. They have got such fantastic teaching. And yet on this little piece of seeing the full picture, they just don't. Okay? You're looking at this and they basically break up Torah into different sections. So you will have civil, and you will have holy, or maybe ritual law, and then you'll have moral code, moral law, and whatever else they want to put in. Okay, you basically get a couple of big, broad descriptions. So when we talk about the civil law, as how we deal with each other in a civil sort of manner. Let's discuss stealing. Let's discuss what happens if you move a property marker, or you know, I pick up your wall in the middle of the night and I move it 3 feet into your yard, and then I put it down and I go, no, it was always like that. You're obviously delusional. And why are my roses in your garden?
It's basically the duty.
Okay, then you get the moral code, which is adultery and stealing and those sort of things. You know, it's just morally and ethically really just not good. And then you get the holy or the ritual law, which has got everything to do with sacrificial and anything that says this is what will make you holy. Be holy for I am holy. So throw out most of Leviticus because that's the buzzword throughout the book. Okay? You know, there's a portion in Leviticus called Kedoshim, which means holiness. And guess what? Food. You know, all your unclean and unclean dietary restrictions are in there, and you start talking about ritual impurities and those sort of things. Don't worry about it. It is no longer there because Yeshua has made you holy, and therefore you are now sanctified and set apart through the blood of Messiah. Half-truth. Okay? How do I know it's a half-truth? 2 ways. Number one, if you look at what the guys were doing in Acts, when you look at the disciples of the disciples themselves, they still kept kosher, they still kept feasts, and that falls into this holy area. Okay? Thus it will be a sign between you and I that we belong to each other. Okay? Do not eat anything unclean. Peter's vision in Acts 10, no way, I have never eaten anything unclean or treif. And that was after the death, burial, and resurrection, 40 days of teaching, and the pouring out of the Holy Spirit, and he still has not touched anything unclean.
I mean, Mark 7. Remember when they were eating, and he says, whatever comes to me doesn't come out.
Yeah, it's going to get into, well, no, it's not going to, I'm never going to get anywhere. Right? So here you get into these different types of code. Now what you start to see in Deuteronomy and in other places is that every bit of mitzvah, these mitzvahot, are actually interconnected. There is no clear-cut definition of one law in a nice little bracket and saying this is a moral code for you, or this is a holy code for you, or this is a civil code for you. There's also a nice one that they like to use is the law of Christ versus God's law. Don't shout at me, I've just using the terminology that I'm going to say. Half of you are like, God said to speak to me in such ways. Okay? So do what Christ says. But they don't know the words of Christ, they don't understand what He did. Nowhere in the New Testament will He command you. Christ did never say keep Shabbat. They're right. But what do you think it means when He went into a synagogue every Shabbat, as was the tradition? So do you need to tell me that you're a bunch of Christians because you go to church on Sunday? Can I assume that you believe you're keeping the Sabbath because I know you're in church on Sunday? Yes? Because I know the tradition and the time of where you're staying. As a Jewish man living under Torah in a synagogue, and remember, you go back to Torah, nowhere will it say. Nowhere will it say on Shabbat, sit in a synagogue and read my word. Doesn't say that anyway, so why are you guys here?
You'll hunt us down.
I have a unique set of skills. I will find you. Started to think all those years of martial arts training just for this one purpose.
Because you're observing the Shabbat. To observe the Shabbat, you want to get to know your Father, and to get to know your Father, you spend time in the Word.
Right, and we have an extra base of what was the correct interpretation according to the time of Messiah. What did He do? As a disciple of your Rabbi Yeshua, to become like Him, I have to do what He did. And if it was good for Him to be in a synagogue, in a community, studying God's Word on Shabbat, who says it's not good for you? My heart is to be like my Rabbi, so what will I do? Okay? Many people have a big struggle because you're coming here, and let's explore this for a little bit. As a rabbi, not me or anybody else, as a rabbi you're working on Shabbat, surely you're teaching. So where's your rest?
Your rest is in your Shabbat. Is it not good to do good on Shabbat?
It's not good to do good. But also the Levites had special offerings on Shabbat, did they not? So there's a difference between God's work and work.
It says you'll do no servile work.
Well, ordinary work.
Yes.
Right? But if you're a teacher, and you see me teaching, and you're resting on Shabbat, but I'm not resting, surely I'm affront to you.
Like Yeshua said, don't you know I'm about my Father's business?
Again, you can chase your tail around the stuff, and it always comes back to the fact is, what did He do? It's nice when we come in with our own little interpretations about stuff, and you really start to dig into this, and we start to go, well, why am I doing this? Because He did. Do I know more than God? No. So, because I might not understand it fully, I'm going to do what He did until God helps me understand it fully. Okay? I think it's a good thing to get to know your Father on His day. To sit on Daddy's knee and go, okay, teach me about this thing. How do you want me to behave? How do you want me to act? It says, look, He rested from His creation. Did He not create the nation? Did He not give them the word? So resting in Him, sitting with Him, looking back at what He's done. Not worrying about my stuff, not worrying about me, not worrying about everything that I have responsibilities to do. I mean, this day and age is completely mental. Where does your responsibility start? Someone help me, give me a time frame for you. When do you ever stop moving? Yeah. Death and holiday. And even on holiday, we will find things to do. Eh? Yeah, well, it might be a bit of distractions. We become uncomfortable with silence. We become uncomfortable if you're not doing something, you're useless. You need to get up, you need to do something. You need to do something about that. You know, you need to do something about that. You know, you can't just sit on your butt all the time. When do you ever sit on your butt? You're normally asleep. Collapsed in a little heap. I'm so tired, why can't I function? Because you don't have Shabbat, you don't have that rest. You don't have that time with Abba. When do you dedicate your time with Him? This is a forced stop. It's very difficult. I don't know about you guys, but how about when things get really hairy in your week? How much time can you honestly say you set apart for God? Sitting there in your diary saying between 8 and 8:30 that door is closed. You will not bike me. 7 to 7:30. And again it's going to happen at 5, or again it's going to happen at 6. You with kids? Again, when everything stops spinning, that means they're asleep. And then you've got other things that you have to attend to quickly prepare for tomorrow. And then what happens is you sit for 5 minutes on your bed, and you gently start muttering something. Thank you, it was really good, I'm really happy. I'm smiling, I do this myself sometimes.
It's funny because it's true.
That's why they say you must be by your bed on your knees.
Yeah, and you wake up with knuckles in your phone.
Hopefully you own.
Quick tip, and this says nowhere in your Bible that you have to close your eyes when you pray. If you keep your eyes open, it's a little bit easier to stay awake. Alright? We need to get to the place where we can dedicate our time to say, so that we stop our functional work because we need the time with Abba. If we spend time on Daddy's lap, he can talk to us about stuff. Maybe you need that little bit of encouragement that day because what you're going to face that week is going to be a little bit hairy. Maybe you need to pray for a specific family member who's going to be a little bit more refined, and we need to make sure Abba strengthened him, because if they don't see the reason for this refinement, there's going to be a problem. They might rebel. They might fight back. They might end up resenting you. Where do we don't even find time to intercede on our behalf, sitting on Abba's knees. How are we going to do that for others? See, Shabbat is a forced stop. Because you want to get into. You want to be holy. You want to be set apart. You want to be telling the Lord that you are. And why is it such a punishment to stop everything you want to do so that you can sit on Daddy's lap for a day? Tell me I can go sit on an island and do nothing for a week. I normally have to pay lots of money to get there. Abba says, sit down and do nothing, and then we treat it as a punishment. For what? It's because you're not the one yielding the instruction. You're not the one with the command rod. But if you tell everybody else in your house, you will leave me alone for the next 24 hours, they better respect it, or else you're going to boss them. But we ignore God. Anyway, so we come to this place where the people will try and break up the different types of codes, the law of Christ and all the rest of it, and then we will go into a place and we say, okay, that's how we now understand the stuff that's been done. When you go to places like Deuteronomy, when it's the last will and testament of Moshe, and he's going to recant everything God says in a very broad blanket statement, or one verse, alluding you to things he's already spoken to in Leviticus, etc., etc., you realize that these things are actually so interconnected that there is no separation that you could make clear cut that this is only pertaining to. Are you with me? Yes. Okay? Well, it's very quiet up in here. Right. So, a woman is not to wear men's clothing, and a man is not to put on woman's clothing. For whoever does this thing is detestable to Adonai, your God. How many of you are wearing pants right now, you evil woman? Scandal. Therefore, we will take you downstairs and beat you. Is he talking about... Let me rephrase my question to terrorize you a little bit more. Please tell me the difference between what the ladies were wearing in Yeshua's time and what the men were wearing in Yeshua's time.
They all wear dresses.
Yeah, remember how the father would run, right? What would he have to do? Yeah, he'd have to pull up his kilt, right? It's a little bit longer.
I actually did quite a bit of research on what the men and women wore, and the basic garments looked very similar, but the women's garments were more ornate, they were more decorated. There was things added to it, they were embroidered, there were decorative sashes around the waist, there were decorative sashes wound around the head. So it was a little bit more ornate, but the basic garments looked pretty much the same, made out of the same material and everything, but the women's were just more detailed and decorated.
Okay, but then again, let's talk about the high priest. Do you not think his sashes and things were a little bit more blingy?
No, that was a completely different way of dressing.
Oh, but it was ornate, yes?
But that was prescribed to him.
Yeah,
However.
terrible.
Yeah, but I think it's a way of acting. Putting those clothing on, acting like a woman, like we get some people doing.
It goes back to Leviticus where it says a man will not lie with another man as though he lies with a woman. This would be seduction into men lying with men.
You could make that argument. The only sort of ancient principle that we have, and again going back to, is that number one, a little bit later, you've heard of temple prostitution, yes? It's going to come up in this very portion. The men would wear a certain garment and the ladies would wear a different one. That which is pertaining to the men do not change, therefore, in Roman times it makes it a little bit more fun, where if it was considered a rite of passage for little boys to go spend time with grown men, that's how you became a man in those days. And you could therefore go and you could do, there was nothing wrong with it. Greek culture said it was fine. You'll watch Troy, right? Brad Pitt, Madeline Man, goes in to fetch his girl. And that's when he gets shot in the Achilles and then the Achilles dies. You know that actually he was going back to go fetch his male lover, not his.
The real story is so much more worse.
Yes, like I cannot leave my bubba. Hercules, I'm coming to fetch you. It's a little bit more different, okay? We have that one aspect of it. And we've got another one where this term, this clothing or these garments can actually be referred to as well as tools, weapons, or any implementation that come along with it.
Taking the role of the man.
Maybe taking the role of the man. Saying, I will do this, I will defend my house, I will go to war. How many ladies do we know that go out with sword and shield and that and go out to battle? Oh, now yes. But then again, they can take little things and throw them really fast from a distance. But when it comes down to strength, I'm throwing things out there. You're either going to agree with them or you're not. It's okay if you disagree. I'm giving you different interpretations. We test it all, right? This is what we need to do. We look at what people say and we go, okay, where is the context and where could it lie? The thing is, they could be all of these things. The thing is, the garments that they were wearing were very similar, so it must be alluding to something a little bit deeper.
The high priest of the home and obedience.
It could very much come to a place, I know where Uncle Chev's on, could be very much the case of usurping or assuming the leadership role, as a hint alluding to. Today we have a very nice expression that might sum it up. Where's the pants in the house?
What about single mothers? I mean, they have to assume that father role.
Yeah, but you're talking about just specifically with you're sitting in a situation where in God's plan sort of idea of now you're stepping up over the head of the house. It could be. I'm not saying it is 100%. Okay? Again, ask the questions. You've got to get deeper. Alright? The term that they use here is not just talking about clothing. Their clothing was very similar. So there was something here that he was alluding to, and remember, he's also giving Torah, in its sense, is about setting the people apart as holy, kadosh, so that they will not act like the nations they're going to. Prostitution was rife in those times. That was an act of worship to them. So this could be very much a case of, you're going to see this happen before your very eyes when you hit Canaanite town. Don't act like that. Don't get stuck into it. I've put you together in this specific order for my glory, for my name's sake, and you belong to me. Okay? With me? All right.
But if you go to Israel today and you look at the way the women dress,
That should give you a sort of an idea of when you see the difference between that nation and the nations of the world.
Fair enough. But
So
then if you go to Israel,
if you look at the young girls, even the young girls, from little girls, little girls, you actually know that's a little girl from a little boy. Even though the little boy's got long hair, they let them grow their hair, but you know it's a little boy because a little pants on. But the little girl doesn't have little pants on. And if you look at the way the girls dress there's no lust there, there's no fornication, there's no, if you take the way a young girl dresses in Israel today, and you walk, and I can only speak from my own experience because I sometimes want to shudder and close my eyes when I look at when a Christian group comes past,
or in Tel Aviv,
to when, yes, or go to Tel Aviv, and when you see these people that are set apart for the Father, and you look at what that is symbolizing to when you look at what the rest of the nations that will come there and the way they portray themselves. So I do believe that for me, personally, I believe Father, the most important thing is let's find out what the Father says about it. You know, I think people should sit down and ask the Father, what do you feel it should be? You know, as opposed to just getting what man thinks it should be. Because at the end of the day, when I go there and I look, like if you can take boys, for example, ask my boys and ask them if they looked at the Jewish girls, the way they dressed, if there was any lust that was coming forth from them, if there was anything that they portrayed that made them feel that there was a lust coming forth from them, not at all. So I think we need to go a little bit deeper in understanding what is being spoken
You've brought up a very good point. When you go there, but at the same time, if I can throw a spanner in the works, I'm not doing this because I disagree. I like the way that you point. I myself point out the fact when you see young ladies walking there, and again, not all of them.
No, not Tel Aviv.
And you come in there and you see a long flowing skirt with sleeves coming up to here. There's something elegant about them. It is a beautiful thing. It's a young princess look instead of someone who's just trying to advertise stuff. But when the men are wearing skirts in this context, and if you go to Israel today, if you look at the same ladies who dress so elegantly and beautifully, the men will only wear black pants and a white top. And then they wear their blazer. Okay? That is the principle, you can see it lived out. But at the same time, in this context, we remember we're walking around with men who are wearing skirts. Okay? I do believe you have to make a distinction. Okay? Ladies, you dress elegantly. Don't lead yourself to think that you are anything. Let me say this nicely. If you do not see the worth in yourself, you need to believe in what you're advertising. Okay? If you think you are worth nothing, you will act like it. And remember, you attract what you advertise. That is the point of advertising. This is who I am, this is what you're going to get. So if someone is treating you like an object of lust only, don't ask them why. You probably sent it out the first time. Same as with men. Right? If it's all about your body, or the half pants brigade, as some of these guys have got going on there, you know, when everything is like hanging low down.
That's gangster.
Yeah, it's so gangster, dog. Right? You need to, I'm not going against any sort of occupation here. You need to remember that people look at you and that's what they kind of give back. Alright? You have a worth. I believe what Auntie Natalia has said is correct, because they understand that they are sons and daughters of the Most High, and they will act accordingly. They will dress accordingly. There is no doubt who they belong to. You can look at them and you can see elegance and you can see beauty as they walk along. I believe the heart is there. And the men always look respectful. They're not just sort of like this upheaval, shriveled mess. Okay? But we also have to go into here and we say, look at the way they were dressed, the time it was given. Pants were not a big thing. The linen shorts were for the priests because when they climbed upstairs, you were not to expose yourself as you were lifting your legs. Okay? It was a very different culture. We can see these things, how they played out now, and we can take points from that, and we go back and we need to ask the questions, what was going on in that time. Okay? But be very careful how you advertise. You tell me what you think you're worth by the way you dress. And sad to say, back before I was saved, even then, go to a club when you're a little bit older. I'm not living with Christ, I'm not doing it, and even then I would look at these young girls, 16, 17, running around in a club and sitting there with my friends, and I would look at them and I say, would your parents let you go out like that? What are you trying to tell people? You know, people end up in really bad situations because they don't realize where they're shopping. You want to look for a godly man, yeah, don't hang around in a pub and then he's like, oh, he treated me like nothing and then all he wanted was my body. Well, he was probably drunk at the time anyway, so why are you talking to a drunkard? Let's have a deeper conversation about love. Check yourself. Young ones, be very careful. Okay? You know, always, when we do counseling, sort of like marriage counseling and things like that, it blows my mind. Preparing the guys before they get married, I say, okay, especially guys, we're terrible at this. So you write down a list for me about what you want in a godly wife. How do you see it played out? How do you see your life? What are they going to do? You're going to keep Shabbat with them, you're going to keep the feast with them, how do you want them to behave, how do you want them to dress, how do you want to do that? And then you create your own little checklist. You know, when you look at people and you sit down with them and you say, all right, what do you want from a godly husband? What do you want from a godly wife? And then you ask them something that no one ever asked them is, what do you want for yourself? I've never really thought about that. Well, then how's the other person supposed to know what you want, if you don't even know what you want? Maybe you should take some time and just sit there and think about how you want your household to look, how you want to spend time together, how you want to build your family. We never take the time to stop and ask ourselves the hard questions. And then when you find out what you want, then you take your shopping list in the back of your mind and you go, all right, look at this person. Do they fit the mold of the type of person I want? There are exceptions, guys. God will come up to that and tap you on the shoulder. That one. This one. This one's got problems. This one needs some tune-up, and then Abba will tell you, don't worry, I'm busy. Man, I'm going to give you strength. Yeah. Tanya waited 9 years for me just to get the proposal. 9 years. By the time it took a heavenly intervention for me to get to where I needed to be. But I promise you, if I got married before, I would have been a very bad husband. I would have been terrible. Because it was always about me. And I never thought, never stopped. What do I want? When do I want to? How am I going to get there? What is the purpose of my life? I was just enjoying life. But when Abba started to change me, he started to make me into the man. And this is a big thing, guys. Abba has to transform you so you can be the person they deserve. And if he's working with you, yield. Because it might be the person you're sleeping next to praying the prayer for you to change. Oh, that's nice, huh? Because when you came into the marriage, you were perfect, and then you just stepped in and you realized the other half was crazy. Or you brought out that crazy.
I see you and raised you. I met you in 1978. It was like 35 years later.
You also needed that.
Oh, quite a
Israel used to teach us on Shabbat, and he used to say it's very interesting because Western society generally, again I'm generalizing that, the women tend to dress to go out.
Yeah.
The fact that especially going to work, and it's also at home. Instead it should be reversed, it should be, they should be going out modestly, and then coming back and being attractive at home. Quite interesting.
Yes, yes. I'm not going to going out far and wide, I don't want to say anything. Thank you, Uncle Grant, who stays in Benoni, for your contribution. Right, you want to say something?
Yeah. I think, like for instance, God told one of the prophets to go to the house of harlots, to choose a wife from the house of harlots. So I mean, if you look at, even if you look at that particular, it was to actually teach Israel a principle, and just on the principle of who God is and His love for them. And you could imagine with this prophet going out, and there's his wife, and then she wants to go back to that type of living again, and she wants to go back and go back all the time. And he goes and takes her back, takes her back, takes her back, takes her back. Yeah. So I think sometimes when we're looking at God's ideal in our eyes, if it is our eyes looking at through our type of thinking, sometimes it's not exactly what God's plan is for our life at that particular stage. Not saying that we must go and choose a wife from the harlot, but
yeah, you need that prayer. You need to be sure, right? But also at the same time, He brought the godly standard and she didn't submit to that. Right? So you're going to have that play, okay? So, yes, maybe an if, but, okay? Verse 6. If, as you are walking along, you happen to see a bird's nest in a tree or on the ground, you are not to take the mother with its chicks. You must let the mother go, but you may take the chicks for yourself, so that things will go well with you and you are to prolong your life. Yes, you will prolong your life by not eating the bird and the babies.
But if you eat the mother, you won't get any more.
Right, okay, so going to come to the place of, well, they're going to make more eggs, it's going to be fine. You need those eggs, so don't be greedy. Traumatize the bird, love nature, you are to take care of it, so chase it away rather, and then just take what you need.
It's just showing God's heart. Utility rights, possibly.
No way, anyway. Unfortunately, it would be easy if it was. Yeah. What I will point out to you is this, after many years of discussing this, up to Yeshua's time, they're like, the rabbis had said, what is the least of the commandments? The smallest mitzvahot. That's it. Now, we could go, Rabbi, you're crazy. But your rabbi gets into a discussion about this very mitzvah. Where?
The least of these one commandments. You teach men to do those that don't teach men to do it, and they'll be called the least of the commandments.
Right, you're going to Matthew 5. Alright? Do not think that I have come to abolish, take away, misinterpret the Torah and the prophets. I have not come to abolish, but to establish, to complete, to fulfill, to uphold is the correct interpretation. Yes, indeed, I tell you that until heaven and earth pass away, not so much of a yud or a stroke, quotes, which is a decorative point on the yud, will pass from the Torah, not until everything that must happen has happened. So whoever disobeys the least of these mitzvot and teaches others to do so will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and so teaches will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. He uses also, again, this is like full of little rabbinic idioms that they use, right? They're called the least of, the lightest mitzvah. If you do not even look after mommy bird, and you tell others don't worry about it, you will be called least in the kingdom. Now you see, it is a hidden thing here. Does Torah equal salvation? Right. A lot of people will tell you that that's what you believe. Whether you tell them or not, no. Okay? That's what you believe. You're trying to achieve righteousness by your works. Therefore you are self-righteous. Therefore you are under the law and we don't want anything to do with you. That's normally their first response. That's normally their first fear. Notice what Yeshua says. If you disobey and you teach others to do so, you will be called least in the kingdom.
That's ambiguous. Because either they're in the kingdom and they'll be called the least, or those in the kingdom will call them the least. Which one is it?
I think Abba will call them the least. Okay? When we look at sort of, back me up here guys, sort of the hierarchy of things, when people will be elevated, the 12 disciples will be put on judges, 11 plus. Judas was, his place was taken away and then someone else put in his place. But they would judge Israel, right? Because they followed Messiah, because they kept Torah, they would stand up in their right place and then they would judge 12 tribes, right? And so far, if you follow what God has commanded, you will become judges of the nations, right? I think the point that is He gives you reward for obeying His mitzvah. And if you teach people to establish it, that this is what you're saying, He says, then you have it all. You have obedience, because Torah is about relationship. Okay? I was having a discussion with a guy and I said, you know what? He says, oh yeah, no, but now God doesn't love me if I don't do this. I said, no, you're looking at it all wrong. If your son or your daughter disobeys you, will you love them any less? No. Will you like them? No.
Will they get dessert? No.
You will love them the same. You will still do everything you possibly can for them, but you will be disappointed. You will pull your hair out. You will go, oi, what are you doing? How did you not understand? Have I not taught you what you need to do? And it will affect your relationship. The thing is, at one point or another, we have broken a mitzvah, therefore we need redeeming. When you kept it, if you kept it perfectly, and then you only made one mistake, you are still soiled, you still need redemption. The problem is not Torah. Torah is perfect. The problem is us. Okay? This came from God's mouth. God is perfect. God gave it. It was perfect. Romans says it is pure, righteous, and holy. So if the standard of which I'm being measured, if this is trying to come into me, and you're looking at it and you're trying to walk with it because it pleases God when you do. Remember, the term mitzvah has a connotation, it means to bring a smile to Daddy's face. If I do this, I make Him happy. Again, people are like, yo, but we don't have to. Like, why wouldn't you want to? They look at this as a negative thing the entire time. And yet Yeshua says, come on, guys. Even the least of these mitzvot, if you cannot even chase away a little birdie and understand how vulnerable and how small those things are compared to where you are right now, if you cannot even look after nature, and you teach others to carry on like that, and you just ignore everything to this little mitzvah, this isn't giving a tenth or a portion of your crop or a portion of your thing. Those are bigger things, and it's not the heavier matters. You know, a heavy mitzvah is maybe something that carries a death penalty. And there's also these big mitzvahs as well who you could maybe link into celebrating the high holidays. Yom Kippur. They have atonement, these feasts and festivals that bring glory to your God. These Sabbaths. He sides between you and him, that you belong to him. If you can't even do the little bit, how are you going to do the big stuff? And you're going to walk away from God's heart. You are going to nullify, and again, remember what I said, this is to reveal God's character. Right? It is to show you about his heart, show you about his love. If you cannot even do this for a little bit, how then are you going to try and do the big stuff that I entrust you with, like other people's lives? Okay? So we look at this kind of thing where we kind of just like, yes, don't eat birds and blah, 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 we move on. But this is the very illustration Yeshua used to try and get them to understand the fullness of God's kingdom. Okay? When you build a new house, you must build a low wall around your roof, otherwise someone may fall from it, and you will be responsible for his death. Do you guys have any other translation there? Parapet wall, okay, which is it's like a little 2-brick wall that runs around on top. Anything else? Blood guilt. Okay, the blood will cover your house, I read in some interpretations, some translations.
Doesn't that also refer to the blood avenger?
The blood avenger. No, that's something that's an accidental death. I think this goes in more the case. But possibly could, but it's not like an accident, like I was swinging an axe, or we were roughhousing on top of the roof and you fell off. This is a case of, now you've fallen and there's blood at your door.
Blood down defiles the land.
Right, so there's accidental death, so he tells you to go the extra mile to prevent it. And it'd be nice how we go, all right, you know what, every parent's responsibility is to yourself, therefore we don't need a balustrade. If your kids, chas v'chalila, decide to do monkey bars off them, it is not your responsibility, it's my responsibility. I have to make sure that you're safe here. I have to make sure that everything is sorted. Because you're coming into my house. I am responsible here. And I need to make sure I love you enough to be able to go my extra mile, spend the extra money if need be, for something that I might never use. Okay? You are not to sow 2 kinds of seed between your rows of vines. If you do, both 2 harvested crops and your yield from the vines will be forfeited. Okay, defiled. Now, I'm going to read these 3 together because I think they link. God's teaching us 3 things here. You are not to plow with an ox and a donkey together. You are not to wear clothing woven with 2 kinds of thread, wool and linen together. And then he goes into something that's a little strange. You are to make for yourself twisted cords at 4 corners of the garments and wrap around yourself. So, we go in and we say, okay, you're not to sow with 2 different types of seed together. Why? Right, when I come into harvest one, it's going to uproot to the other one. It's going to damage the plant. It's not going to give me the proper harvest. He says, don't do that, you're only going to hurt yourself. Okay? What? And then he goes into ox and donkey. Strong and weak. And also, have you seen the size difference between an ox and a donkey? Alright, so let's put little donkey, an ox, and a yoke.
Donkey's going to pull heavier than the ox.
Yes, and then we're going to beat it because it's not doing its work properly. First problem, unequally yoked, right? First problem is you're putting too much pressure on the one because they're not the same size. They were not made to take the same weight. Okay? Use 2 animals of same height, same strength, so they can pull together in unison. Okay? You're going to hurt the one. Then you also have another sort of principle, is that when you have 2 different animals of similar strength or things like that, what is the most difficult thing about yoking?
They have to work together.
To learn, yeah, they have to be trained to have to pull together. Now, what happens if you've got really long legs and animals with really short legs?
One is going anyway.
And we have now found out where crop circles come from. There is intelligent life. Or maybe not so much. Right? Yeah, big silly. Right? They're not going to be able to pull together. So it's going to be very difficult for you to get the job done. And then you're putting more pressure on that. And what's going to happen? Oh, tell me what happens when you guys get unequally yoked.
He's upset.
Oh,
Just sits down and does nothing.
there's tension. Maybe not
extreme circumstances.
What happens? Conflict. There's no? Right.
Everything is.
And who gets the brunt of that?
The small one.
No. 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 What do you do when you are not happy? No. Tell me who gets the brunt?
The women.
You moan and you groan and you mumble and you grumble and you want to fight, you want to beat, you want to ask him to get rid of it.
Not even at a first name basis anymore.
Yeah. That thing you gave me sounds familiar. That woman. That woman you gave me, who I was standing next to when she turned and gave me the apple because she's pretty. And now I don't want to be her because she's in trouble. Abba gets the brunt of it. So he's warning you again. Look at what you're doing. Don't put pressure, more pressure on the one. Okay? Listen to me. If you come in and we're going to spiritualize this, obviously from a physical perspective, this makes sense. Right? We're not going to be farming with one donkey and one ox and we're going to go together. Right? But if you look at what he says about marriage. Okay? If you're not on the same page, it's going to be very difficult for you. And if you don't believe me, come see me afterwards. I'll give you some numbers of people that I've had to counsel and spend time with. And get into the nitty-gritties of their marriages, whether they liked it or not. And I had to stop and look at it and go, what were you thinking when you got married? Oh no, I thought they were going to change it. Oh yeah, how's that working out for you? Really? You think you can beat someone in line? Abba is the only one that can change. Unless God tells you that that's the one for you, be careful what you yoke yourself to. You know, there are sections, I think it's in Corinthians, stand to be corrected, where what do I do, Abba? Where Paul writes to them and he says, I've come to the faith, but I'm married now. What does he tell the person that has come to faith? What do they tell them what they have to do?
They must stay there because that will create salvation.
You may, or you may leave. Go and study the scripture for yourself. Okay? Why? God hates divorce. He doesn't like it. He permits it because of your hardness of heart. But if you come to faith, and you two were walking a path together, let's say your entire foundation on marriage has been built on booze, party, fornication, and a bunch of other stuff, and then you got married and you carried on the same route, and you're happy. This is how you two roll. This is where you are. Then you become a believer. You have changed. Please. Amen. You have changed. And you realize you don't want to drink and you don't want to party and you don't want to do all those things. But when you got married, you said, I will be there with you through it all. We're going to party together. It's going to be a good time to sell. We're going to be until we get into the ground. So you, as the believer, have to come back to the person because you have changed and you have to go, I know I have changed. I know I'm changing the terms. I know I'm the one that is now bringing in something new into this relationship. I'm here with you. I want to continue this thing. And this is something that I'm going to walk out. Are you okay? Are you willing to stay? I'm willing to fight. Well, change this into. Do you want to have that conversation in 10 years' time? Where, at the opinion of your spouse, where they will look at you and go, this is either too much for me, I can't handle this. people use that as a jux and go, you know what? I like it and they're not following you anyway and I kick you to the curb. That's not what it's meant to be. You now have changed. You've now walked with God and you've brought in a whole bunch of stipulations into your house. And maybe Saturday morning was your time together as a married couple where you would go and have breakfast and you would have a good time and you would just touch base and now you say no more shop things. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for us? Where's our time? I look forward to those Saturday mornings with you, man. I love you. What's this? Look, I'm following Alma. I need you to understand, but I need this. And you come in, you bring those stipulations in, and it affects both parties. Don't think that it's just your choice. You have to come to the other side, your other half, your other piece, that you've been knitted together with, and you have to go, I'm here with everything I have. This is not going to be easy. We're going to disagree a lot probably, but I need you to understand, if you love me, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And you will sanctify that marriage because you're obedient to God, you're submitting to your spouse. That works on both sides. And you're standing there with them, building them up, and I will stand and intercede for them. And that's what makes your marriage holy. By your testimony, your halakha, they will look and then they will go, what? What? I can't believe I've never seen this before. Can you imagine? Put that into context in a Roman world. Where the society is so steeped in idolatry that you have slaves for uses of lust that you've bought for that purpose. And they're okay with it. And maybe you as a man walk in there and you go, I've been wrong. Your wife looks at church as well. But I prayed to deity, wherever. You know, Zeus, what's going on? He called him Jupiter, I think, in those days. So, please, in my house, I'm going to have to get rid of that. Now, what do we do with that person? You bought that person for that stuff. So we will continue to take care of her. I'm not going to touch her again. You understand how things are going to change. It's difficult enough when you come into a situation where now what's been happening recently is that you might both be believers and one all of a sudden goes Messianic on you. Never mind an unbeliever. Can I add something?
Yeah, I'm in that situation. My husband thinks I've lost the plot. My mother-in-law goes to an ex-Jewish pastor and she says to me, you mustn't go that Jewish route, that's for the Jewish people, and you're not Jewish, and you're doing the wrong thing.
Right. Raise your hands, who's been in that situation? Welcome to the club. this is our, you know, this is fellowship when we get together, and then afterwards we laugh at all the things we've been through. Right? This is a time when you intercede for them, but it's because you do. Let me give you a little bit of testimony, right? I came back from Israel, God goes, bang, I'm real. He tells me this is about discipleship. He tells me it's about let's get into it. I read the Gospels for the first time with this idea of I'm going to become like my rabbi. So everything he did, I said, I'm taking on myself. Many of you don't know, many of you do know. Where was, you know what church Tanya started in? She was a Jehovah's Witness. And when I came back from Israel, we had some interesting discussions. Now, you must understand, I knew very little. Okay? So I would be digging into the Word, and I'd say, oh, read that verse. That's cool. And I'd be excited, and I'd be passionate. And the only person I could talk about was her, because, yeah, I'm not going to let, but I would sit with her, and I would show her stuff, and I'd be like this. And I went from one person who was all about partying and going and having a good time, to let's go have coffee and cake and let's talk about God. It was very strange for her. And she was like, what happened? And it was through my halakha, my walk. I would talk to her and we would go back and forth about stuff and she'd say, Shona, but I understood it this way. I said, yes, but look at what the word actually says. Surely if he meant an easy one off the top of my head that we had some discussions with was, let me use the crucifixion thing. They don't use any crosses in their church. Okay? Because people pray 2 crosses and therefore it's a form of idolatry. I understand the heart. Okay? There are other churches that do literally pray 2 crosses. They don't want to be associated at all. So they're like, no, he was crucified on a tree, that's what the word says. Fair enough. So he came up and there was only 1 crossbeam, right? Yeah. Okay, and that was in the ground. Yeah. So what did he carry? No, we don't believe in crosses and that's why we're going there. We're not going into it. I was asking a genuine question and got them to think differently. And you know, there were hordes of these little things that we look at. This is what Scripture says and this is what's going on. And I had to do it. My heart was changed and I had to mimic my rabbi. And time again, the more opposition came from family, from bad discussions, from attacks, wherever, I had to go, I'm doing this for you and no one else. My responsibility is to you first. And then, through my walk and through what they saw and through discussions, this is what God said. Tell me where it says otherwise. We couldn't. And they would see the peace I would get, and they would see the bigger pictures, and I would show, eventually, as God would open up my eyes, I would show them stuff. And say, do you see how those two link? I never knew that, it's so exciting. And it's like they link and they get excited. And then it would make sense to them. But that takes time. So I had to go through it, and I had to walk it out for me first. You know, and it was for me, it was about cementing, why am I doing this? Am I doing this for the approval of men, or am I doing this for the approval of God? I've been beaten up enough verbally to tell you straight that I've been called names all under the sun, things I wouldn't use against enemies, by many people that are very close to me. It cemented my feet in saying that I will not leave your side even when those closest to me bring up the life. I'm doing this for you. And Baruch Hashem, many of the people that brought the knife, I watched get baptized. And I didn't go, yeah, you check now I'm right, now you're only 90% there, now you have to come and do this Torah thing. I could go up to them and I could praise God for their salvation, and I could just go, you know, okay, one more step, Abba. But I need to make sure I stick true to what He's called me to do. So guys, when you get into these discussions, understand. You know, this, I keep on equating it to Jenga. You know, those little wooden blocks and they build the house and then you've got to pull out pieces. When you come with this Torah stuff, and the house is built, you're doing this. And then you're waiting, and then the whole theology and everything is doing this. Be sensitive. Be sensitive. Come in and you go, you tuck that and you're saying, are you sure that's what it says? And you take them into the Word and you realize their interpretation wasn't, and then you remove the block. And then you watch that little, okay, we're still okay, we're still alive, we can handle this. Be patient. Just like God was with us. 25 years it took me to realize He existed. That wasn't even following Torah. That's just like, oh, you're real. Well, it was a slow starter, huh?
That's what you said is, we had a discussion with Moshe in the old city. And the one thing you said to Natalia also the one time was, never allow people to take you off the path that the Father has put you on. It doesn't matter quite. And that's it, like you say, your feet was just cemented in the moment.
And you know what the beautiful thing is? When they come up to you and they go, why do you do that? You don't have to give them theology, guys. Do not give them theology. Do not give them, even in the case, you might use scripture in your explanation, but don't Bible bash them. Yo, but Torah is completely real and you're completely deluded if you think that this means this and all the rest of it. What you can do, try it sometime, is saying, this is what Abba showed me. This is why I do it. And that leaves the door open for, but if it's for you, let me think about it. That means it might be for me. And then you go, so I say, and then you just smile and you nod. And you can say things like under your breath, don't worry, He's coming for you while you walk away. How about that one? He's confused. Let's help. You are not going to change them. Okay? God has to change them. Let it go. But it's through your halakha, through the way you live it, through the way you walk it, you will either break up that marriage or you will sanctify it. Dear God, let us sanctify. your children are at risk. Hashem, it says your children will be sanctified.
That's right.
So you stand up and you hold to the truth, but remember, you're the one that changed. It's not them, it's not their fault, it's you. So you go back to them and you talk to them and you say, hey, this is what God showed me. And I'm willing here and I'm fighting here and I want to be here with you. Even though we're probably not going to agree on a whole bunch of stuff, but understand there are going to be little things that I'm going to do differently from now on. If people did that, I think marriages would not be so broken. And you intercede for your husband or for your wife, and you pray for them because you're going to need God to change them and to strengthen you, because it's not the easiest walk, right? But you as a disciple need to count the cost before you do stuff. So let me tell you, when you get your shopping list right, and you go up to the person and you start to tick off these things, don't put yourself in a situation you don't have to be in. I promise you. Many tears, many hours, many crying out to Abba. I need you to change them. They don't see it my way. They must do this. And Abba's like, my baby, I'm changing you.
That's right.
You change first, then I will deal with them. Because if they don't see me in you, they're never going to believe it. Young ones, be careful what you shop for. If you want to treat yourself like you don't love yourself, maybe grab an old person here and ask them if they've ever had to deal with a situation like that, and they can share some testimony. I promise you the tears and the claws and the panel beating is not worth your time. Try and get it right from the beginning. Okay? So he's saying here again, the seed, you will hurt each other when you pull away. You will put pressure on each other here. And then he goes into wool and linen. Huh? Okay, so we can go into this teaching where the frequency is differences, and then you've wove them two together, it actually messes with your imbalance.
Because it's 100%. Linen is 100% frequency, wool is 100% frequency. So if you put them together, that's why, have you seen sometimes when you put something it makes sparks? You know, that electricity?
Oh.
That is what's not
messes up your body.
Messes up your...
Makes you physically
Clear? Alright. What else?
I'm not going to wear a thick woolen jersey in the middle of summer.
No, but
Hot and cold.
Practical.
Okay.
Go to school. Wool is hot.
Next.
Two different materials. If one gets wet and it pulls up, and they stretch out, and then you suddenly
Pull away from each other. Okay? Also, they're gonna act differently. Now, let me mess with you a little bit. Do you know that the tabernacle was made up of different parts? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. What was the top layer made out of?
Wasn't it red for the goats?
Well, they could have, yeah, the dolphin of the land.
Yeah.
Goat's hair was the top layer. Okay, which is what, right? And the internal layers are? They were dyed. So, linen. Okay, remember, in this time, and do me a favor, go and study the way they dyed things in ancient times. It was near impossible to dye anything but wool. Because linen, being a plant-based, is very hard. So they could never get it to penetrate in and to stick inside of it. But wool, softer, absorbed it and stayed. Okay. Because when you look at the garments of the priest, you will find that he will have blue stuff and then he will have white stuff. The indication that it's been dyed. And if you don't believe me, you can actually go look up Josephus. Josephus says the Romans were the first ones who really got it right. That was a really long time after this was given. We know that we've actually found, archaeologically, we found a place where they dyed the techelet, the blue string in tzitzit, a talit making shop. Okay? And then when they examined it, they found the talit from the 1st century, just after the time of Yeshua. And they found that that thread for the tzitzit was wool, and the rest of it was linen, was white. Okay? So now all of a sudden we've got a commandment. Because Messiah wore tzitzit, right? Oh, we're getting to this next week. And he's saying, but what? You tell me I don't need to do this, I don't need to do that, and now you're telling me that I am allowed to do that? What's going on? Okay, first problem is you're not weaving the two together to make a single thread. So you're not making it like half, so they're not going to pull away. You're not going to mix frequencies. But what you do is actually have different layers. The one will cover the other one, and the other one will wrap around the other one. Okay? Another interpretation is this, that you get something called, in the Jews call it sha'anatz. The sha'anatz is that something that is described to holy, so the tabernacle will have a whole bunch of different colors, right? Purple, red, blue, and white. Okay, so those are your main ones. So you know that the plant one, the linen, the pure one, is normally linen. And the rest of the stuff that had to be dyed had to be wool. Do me a favor, go and check how they put their tabernacle door together. Alright? And then I want you to go and dig a little bit further. And I want you to go and see, do the link between, especially the high priest and what he wore. And look at where it says color, and look at where it says white, and look at how they link together. And then I want you to come back to me and I want you to give me an answer to this. Because either God has lost his mind, his tabernacle, he says you're allowed to, and then here he says you're not allowed to. I want to know the heart of Abba with this, alright? Are you guys up for that? Okay? I'm going to get you some homework. We will kick off with this because it's going to run into tzitzit. Okay? And there's something profound in it. And yeah, do me a favor. While you're there, study tzitziot. I want you to show me in Scripture, New Testament please, where this has come in. That I can actually document that someone was wearing this. Not Old Testament, New Testament. Alright? Some of you know. But that's going to lead into a story about what happened at that time. And we're going to elaborate on that. I don't have time now. Okay? Any other questions, any other thoughts? Okay, look at the way the Mishkan was put together with the two different fabrics, and look at the high priest garments with the different fabrics. See if you can identify if it mixed. Okay, and then go into tzitziot and the New Testament reference where someone important more than. And then you're going to look. Do me a favor. Look at that story when that happened. Okay. And then we're going to have some fun with that as well, because it's going to open up like it did with the parable of the prodigal son. The story of which is coming is quite powerful and quite big, and it links quite nicely with putting the two together. Any questions, any thoughts? All right, great time is up now.